Live video is starting, so I think that's a good thing. So good evening. I think we've got some kinks worked out. Information I got is because there were so many comments coming in at our last session that the system got a little overwhelmed and it kind of froze up and would unlock. And so I apologize to anyone who commented and I didn't get to respond to you. So please forgive me. I'll take the blame for that myself, but I'm glad. I would rather have more people, we have a conversation and trying to address some things than not. So I appreciate that. I appreciate those that stuck with us because we've gone forward. I would appreciate, because I'm not seeing any comments yet, if someone out there would just send me an email or disregard. Annie beat everyone to it, and Jonathan, thank you to let me know I'm doing a chief and camera technical person. That's great, Annie. That's just great. Jonathan, thank you, my friend. Thanks you guys both being here and sending me that. So, yeah, we had a really good session this afternoon. It was busy, but it was a good conversation. As we speak right now, there is a vigil going on at, it should be starting out, going on at, Ms. Jenkins, how are you? It's good to have you here. Thank you. There's a vigil going on at Heritage High School. A group of pastors are getting together and offer prayer. And my understanding that Captain Hires is the precinct captain supporting Lieutenant Morgan, and believe it or not, a couple young adult police commissioners, high school students, wanted to be there. So they are headed down there. So my plan is there's a couple things I'd like to share with you, but at the end of the day, the big issue right now is what happened yesterday in our city. So I plan to spend most of this evening having a conversation with you about yesterday. I'll answer all the questions that come through. Some people that I want to thank, and got to talk about it. Sometimes it's painful to relive, but we're not going to go to bed tonight and wake up and it didn't happen. As much as me included wish that it did not. But there's some things that I just want to share with you, and I appreciate you being here with me tonight. So let me touch base before I sign off. Though I will give you an update on crime citywide. This is Suicide Awareness Month. I think that's important. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then next month, of course, breast cancer and domestic violence month. Those are both things near and dear to me that we'll touch base on. Lindsay, thank you for being here, and thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. Yesterday was a hard day. Ms. Cox, thank you so much for being here this evening. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you do in the community and the interaction with this department. I appreciate you. Ellen, excellent. So, Ellen, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that. Thank you. Krista, thank you. Thank you for being on tonight. Ms. Jenkins, I got you loud and clear. I appreciate that. Linda, thank you for being here. Some of you that are just joining us, yesterday at about 11:30, officers were called to Heritage High School for a shooting that occurred inside the school. Our SRO was at that scene in about 30 seconds. Officers responded to, you can imagine the frustration and concern from parents, not knowing exactly what's going on, getting calls from students or text messages from their sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, if you will, brothers and sisters. Two individuals suffered gunshot wounds. One was struck in the face area here on the side, and another in the leg. What I'm understanding is both are recovering. Neither are considered life-threatening. However, that doesn't diminish the traumatic experience that they go through. There was another individual that suffered an injury to his arm, running, fleeing from the scene, and then one that was transported, individual, young adult person, asthmatic, in trouble breathing. His response, everything with shooting situations in schools changed after Columbine and the way of response. Years ago, we would respond and lock something down. Nobody was getting in or out. We owned that territory, that land. Nothing was going to go in to hurt anyone. No one was coming out. The problem is there were things going on inside the school, gunshots, right, while we were all outside. We changed our training. Departments across the state changed our training. We all train the same way. That when there's an active shooter or a shooting incident inside a school, our number one priority, it's already a bad day if that's happened. Our number one priority is to decrease the probability of more individuals getting hurt. So what as we're dispatched and the information we had coming in that we had a shooting inside a school, we had a great response. The first 6, 7, 8 officers inside the school building just did an amazing job. They entered as students were running out. Officers are running in. Captain Hires, Lieutenant Collins, officers from primarily South Precinct, but coming from other areas that entered the building. Myself and Chief Grinstead entered the building. Chief Creswell controlled the outside. He worked that with Sheriff Gabe Morgan and the Sheriff's Department as the students came out to getting them to a location where we could get them linked back up with their parents. As the building was being cleared and when we were able to evacuate, we would move students out. I saw firsthand students run out or walk out, tears rolling down their face, scared, unsure. I will tell you, I'll remember those faces, those images for a long time. So I can only imagine what a student might be feeling, or a parent, right? Daughter myself, she was in school, you worry about those things. So some parents, just the frustration and concern. And when we train, I talked a little bit earlier, we train about how to respond to those situations. That it doesn't matter if it's a Newport News sheriff and a Newport News police officer, a Newport News sheriff and a state trooper, a Newport News police officer and a Hampton police officer, a Newport News police officer and some federal agent. We're all trained to go into and address the situation. We were able to determine, we thought that the individual had already left the school building, but until we know for sure, it was to clear that building and evacuate the students as safely and quickly as we possibly could. I thought the students and the staff, teachers, individuals working inside the school did an amazing job, and I have nothing but just thank you to the students, those that were injured, those that were in school yesterday, faculty and staff, people working in the school. As the chief of police of this city, I want to apologize to you that this happened. No one should have to go through that. No one. And I want to apologize to you about this incident. I want to tell the students, the faculty and staff, that I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the way you exited. You worked with police, giving instructions about where to go. I saw a couple students stumble and fall down. I saw other students and officers helping people up to get outside that building, and I could not be more impressed. To the officers and the federal agents and the state police that were on scene, and those that were inside the building and out, deputy sheriffs, ATF, the FBI, I could not be more impressed with the response. I also want to thank the dispatchers who took the initial calls, right, that sit down and aren't there, but hear what's going on, see the different text messages, the radio calls, the phone calls, and dispatch that out. I thought our dispatcher did an amazing job. I spent some time with Laura and Chief Creswell addressing that. And because some played or were exposed to some different things, today, after our 1 o'clock session around 1:30, I met with our staff, and there are some that I just want to have a session with the department psychologist, not because they did anything wrong, but because I care about them. Mental illness and mental stress, and those things are real. And I want an environment here that I know that we're exposed to things that people should never see, never have to deal with. And that's why I was so impressed yesterday, because the things you saw, and officers continued to enter that building and search through, not knowing what they would find. That to me is heroic. The students that, although shaken, that were able to work with us and evacuate in areas that we asked them to, not just all over, right through it. I thought that was heroic. The teachers and faculty and staff there that helped it, I could not be more impressed. And it was a traumatic event. It was a crisis. But how you all performed, I could not be more impressed and humbled to work with such professional people, and I just needed to take a few minutes and tell you all thank you. I'm very impressed. I'm honored to work with such people. So, my plan today is to go through as many messages as I can. Again, forgive me if I miss any. I do not do it intentionally. Believe me, I'm not technically savvy enough to do it intentionally. So I will try to go through each one. Anything I miss, please just send it back in or contact us and we'll be responding to you. But there is a video going on tonight. I made sure we had some officers there. Captain Hires, who was one of the first officers on scene, did an amazing job. Lieutenant Collins as well, out of South Precinct, the officers there. We're going to be sending some of our office members who are trained in our CISM members, if you will. We'll be attending each roll call tomorrow. We'll be attending the day shift on for our dispatchers that we're working, and as well as our forensic technicians who went in and processed the crime scene. And there's a couple individuals that I just want to have a session with our department psychologist because I think that's important. All right, so Linda, thank you so much for being here. Linda says thank you for the officers. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. Ms. Jenkins, I appreciate you. Thank you. Jacob, hey there, Chief. Hope all is well. Is there an estimated amount of gang members? So, Jake, I want to be very careful about labeling. I will tell you that I do not believe this was a gang incident. I believe this is gang related. I get that from the information we have received, the interviews we've conducted, information that we collected. I'm not going to spend too much time, but is there an estimated gang members? People get in a gang, they get out of a gang, they participate, they don't. It's a hard number. I know that I never want us to just have a database where we have people that are carry the title of a gang member and we just leave it sit. I think we always have to reevaluate that, and whether it's by self-admission that they are in a gang or that they're in this gang this week and this gang the next week, or hardcore members. I will say this: we do have gangs in Newport News. Some are more active than others. Some have beefs with different groups. I had a really good session today with Mark Herring, the Attorney General's office. A group of about 25, Commonwealth Attorney from Howard Gwen, our Commonwealth Attorney here, and the Commonwealth Attorney from Hampton, the Mayor from Hampton, Mayor Tuck, Mayor Price, my friend Sheriff Morgan, school resource officers, just a room full, about 25 people with the Attorney General. We just talked about different things. And gang activity is one thing. We talked about access to firearms and the type of firearms, the number of shell casings that we recover. But no, I don't want to estimate that. We talk about different groups, and some are larger than others. It's a good question, but I want to make sure that we're careful not to just label. So I would be very careful about throwing that number out. Laura, appreciate you, Laura. Thank you. Jacob, that's a great question. Laura, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Dorothy, great job yesterday. Do you have the to you? Oh, and the entire heritage. Wow, thank you, Dorothy. I appreciate that. Annie, I can't even imagine what the parents and family went through yesterday. Thank God they'll be okay. I think so. Annie, I would agree with you. There was a lot of frustration. It took us a little bit. Any chaotic scene, it takes a little bit to get things under control. We had a lot of parents and family members were at the front door, so we couldn't get. Sometimes we had a little trouble getting officers into the school and clearing a way to get students out. Right, so. We don't want students coming in and parents running. We want students coming out, parents running in, and creating that bottleneck. So it took us a few minutes to coordinate where we were going to have the students go, and faculty helped us with that. The Sheriff's Department, Chief Creswell, running the outside, and we got that cleared up. But I totally understand it. Right, that first reaction is my son, my daughter. I totally understand it. It took us a little bit, but I really give a lot of kudos to family members in responding, and I want to thank our PIO office for getting information out about where parents could meet their children, their kids at. We use the tennis courts there, and if you're familiar with Heritage, it's a beautiful and a large campus. But it worked really well once we got, in my opinion, the situation going on. I thought they did a very good job. Parents just did a really good job, and I appreciate them working with us. They're going to get made for a smoother transition of what we were trying to do. Carol. I don't know about all that. Students yesterday, I can tell you how safe I've been on it. Carol, I appreciate that. Thank you. Keith, the men and women did a great job. They did. They absolutely did. I had to see the officer agency step up to assist. Teamwork makes it, makes every officer that ran into that building only concerned to protect you. On top of that, to deal with the parents coming to the scene and making a quick apprehension. You know, Keith, I'll tell you, like I said earlier at the beginning, I was just, was the volume low?
I checked it. I can hear it.
It could be me, maybe I should talk louder. But I will tell you, Keith, you're absolutely right. I can tell you, I personally went over to talk to the group of state troopers from the FBI, the ATF, the officers there, some school board members that were there. I just could not be more impressed with the way that communication worked between the different agencies. Once we had the school evacuated, we used our SWAT team and a contingent of the FBI to go through and check every single room. And when we did that, they did the same thing again, just to make sure. And I figured we would find some individuals, some stragglers that maybe had locked themselves in a room, were afraid to come outside, maybe someone hiding in the bathroom or a locker room, and we did. I think we cleared some kids that were in the library to get a contingent out there. They just did a phenomenal job in sharing that information. And I did make the decision to give some information out. There was a lot of things being posted, and there were some inaccuracies, which I totally understand that as well, right? People are unsure, this is what I heard, but things that way can spread. So I worked with Kelly King and her team to talk with the media and try to give everything I knew at that time, to be transparent about what we had and what the situation was, to keep people updated and to calm some things down and try to get some information that we knew, that we could verify. So that was one of the reasons, and I apologize for any of that miscommunication in any of those situations. The information is valuable, but it can change so quickly. For instance, oh, this is what the individual is wearing. Oh, this is the way he ran. No, he ran that way. We've got to prove or disprove those things, but I wanted to get information out, and I appreciate the media that covered it and shared the information and worked with us, and we tried to follow up and do some things throughout the day. Danica asking, is this a live or replay?
You're live.
Yeah, we're definitely live, I promise. Robin, thanks for being here, I appreciate that. Ms. Lawrence, physical safety is number one, but what is being done to secure the long-term mental health and wellness of these kids, faculty and parents? It takes both the community and law. I agree, absolutely agree. There are community-based programs that can help partner with them. I'd love to be a part of it. Let's think resources with the schools. Let's link. Oh, I completely agree, Ms. Long. I think you're right on. Thanks for the communication, support, and dedication. Thank you. And being responding immediately, taking action, and time to talk to us rather than at us is important. Hats up. Ms. Lawrence, you make some very good points. There's a lot of great community programs. And you're absolutely right. I appreciate that. Means a lot. It means a lot. We'll need you to scroll back up for me. All right, so I got Miss Lawrence and there's a couple I missed after.
They were talking to each other.
Oh, they're talking to each other. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Oh, they're deciding if I'm live or not. I promise I'm live. It's a real deal. Mr. Smith, making a difference. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. That means a lot. Thank you. Whitney, how are the hospitalized victims from yesterday doing? Everything I've heard is people are recovering. There may be some follow-up surgeries, still not considered life-threatening. That's the physical part, but the mental and emotional, I'm sure, is going to be around for a while for those that were injured and those that even weren't, that just experienced it. And I will tell you, I also worry about the parents that responded and kids that from other schools. Those are real questions. I just think we have to be open and have conversations at their level and listen to them and listen. But yeah, Ms. Johnson, everything I'm hearing is that nothing life-threatening, but maybe some follow-up surgeries. Danica, welcome back, Chief Drew. We've been busy today. You've been, oh yeah, thank you for all that you do and following everyone yesterday and updating the community. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Ms. Press, thank you for your service. Thank you so much, entire police department. My hat is off to the teachers and staff. They just did an amazing job on working with us and coordinating getting those kids out. And like I said, seeing those young people, their faces exiting the building, a lot of things go through your mind. And I was talking to Sheriff Morgan and Chief Johnson with the fire department yesterday. Our training is we just focus on the task, saving, moving. But last night, I tell you, about 7:30, I was able to decompress a little bit and I just sat down on the edge of the bed and I remember these images instead of this way. I remember images. My hat's off to the faculty and staff and those students. They just did an amazing. I'm so proud of our young people. Megan, thank you for your quick response. Megan, thank you. I appreciate that. Mandy, that's an intelligent thing to do. Thank you. You all did an amazing job. We addressed this in the school district issue back. Lack of communication, and I'm not blaming it at all. It just should be. Wait a minute.
No.
That's the intelligent thing to do. Thank you. You all did an amazing job. We had addressed this in the school district issue, lack of communication. No, Mandy, I understand. I understand something future students are not. No, I totally get it. It's very, very valid. Thank you. Richard, hello Chief. My youngest daughter is a senior at Woodside High School. Wow. And she said that the school response was immediate and effective, and at no time was she worried. That said, I've always made sure she is aware of what is going on, her surroundings. That being said, these parents still worry. As a retired officer, I appreciate the immediate response by the department and all the resources. I'll tell you, Richard, I could not agree more. The response I thought was excellent. The dispatching was excellent, and I think it's very, very important to have those conversations with your daughter. I'm not putting the blame on anything. This was an individual's decision and thought, and I'm sure there'll be weeks ago. The next thing for me in our department is we get a good indication of why now, but to continue to learn. Where did the firearm come from, and what was this the response, and so we know what happened. It's just maybe the understanding. I don't want to see any retaliation. I want to see healing and letting the next justice system take its course. But I think it's going to take wrapping our arms around each other, our students, right, our family, our community, and prayer. That's going on tonight at Heritage High School. I talked to Pastor Riddick and Pastor Maxwell and Pastor Swan. They called me, Apostle Charlie from Restoration, just individuals that called to check on the department, community, and myself, and I just appreciate that. Mandy, I feel like it's on the school district being more top of it. Mandy, I don't know. I understand. I understand your thoughts. I had a good conversation with Dr. Park. We have a good relationship. We talked about a lot of things, and I think talking about it and making some decisions on as we go forward. But you make some very, very good points. Justin, Chief Drew, my whole department did an excellent job in this situation. Your whole department, as a former Department of Corrections officer, I've seen a lot. I'd be happy to serve under you. I live in Matthews, but the Department of Ethics is recognized statewide. Justin, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you for your service and the stuff that you did. I think in our professions we see things that most people don't see, and I wish that most people never would see. But to face those things and head on and get up and come to work the next day and do it again, I think that's remarkable. Those that are in this profession for the right reasons, and sometimes when things are at its very worst, it is the opportunities that we are at our very best. So I appreciate you and appreciate your comments. Thank you. Dorothy, it also speaks volumes to your character and leadership that you make it a priority to check up on the victims, both yesterday and in the past. I wanted to do. I was not able to get to see them. There was some they had moved around a little bit, but I will be talking to family and checking on them when they feel like they're able, when they're willing to talk to them. But I want them to know that they were in my prayers last night, and will be going forward for the recovery, and also that things were not worse, because it certainly could have been. Great job, Carol. Thank you. The students and the parents, staff at Heritage, hope you wrap up your quilt. Absolutely, sounds good. Thank you. And thank you for the gift. I had no idea until later. Again, it's scary what the next school board meeting is. But yeah, yes, I understand. There is I don't know if that's to me or someone else.
To someone else.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Apologize to those.
There you go.
Does Newport News School have security officers? They do. Security officers and SROs. SROs in every high school and every middle school. I became a police officer and a school security officer. Yes. I think we have some of the best SROs. It's a hard job, you know, and like I said, that campus is so big. But yes, the school does have security officers and SROs. I was actually just talking to some school board members earlier today about that. But and I know that people may feel differently about SROs in a school. I understand those concerns. I think we also have to make sure that we talk to our students and ask them what they want, how they feel. I think that's important. So you were a school resource officer, Keith. That's good to know. I got something to give you a hard time about, man. That's good to know. Whitney, appreciate you being concerned not only for the physical victims but students. Yes. I spoke to several individuals yesterday and my heart broke for them. Whitney, mine did too, and I made it a point. Oftentimes with a crime scene or a critical situation, when I respond, I want to make sure the officers have what they need and the detectives have what they need and we have the situation under control. And is there anything that I can bring them or help them, let them do their jobs? Once that's done, I try to interact with individuals that may be standing around just to check on them. That was part of my, once things started to scale back down, there was a group of citizens that were still around, and I tried to go over and just talk to them a little bit. And some were appreciative, some were frustrated, some were worried and confused, and I understand all of that. But I think it's important that we just have some conversation and be open and transparent as much as possible. And they were there for a reason, and I just wanted to talk to them a little bit. Melissa, so that's one of the things we're determining that now. As part of the investigation, I wouldn't put that out there, but I will tell you that was one of the concerns in the investigation is where did the gun come from? How did this young man get it? And what had it been used in before, if anything? So it's a very good investigative question. Ms. Bradley, there are a lot of people at the hospital, students as well. The support of the peers and parents. Everything was amazing. We called the schools, and I know that we called the hospital. We knew that there'd be a rush there. Let me say that the hospitals in our community do an amazing job. I heard a comment earlier today. Let me say this: they save lives. And there's no doubt they're a great partner and a great asset to the city and community. My hat is off to doctors, surgeons, and nurses who work in the field of medicine. I appreciate it. Don't think for a minute. I probably don't spend enough time telling you thank you, but what you do for this community is amazing. I appreciate it. All medical facilities. Jennifer, thank you for what you do for the youth. Jennifer, thank you. I appreciate that. Angela, how are the officers How are the officers that responded? Can't imagine how hard it was having to see so many youth. I do work with some of the officers when they respond to a call. So, Angela, I will tell you, of course, if you ask them, everybody's good, right? So I think it has to become on the leadership sometimes to do to offer some things. We have probably, Sarah, 25, 30 individuals trained with our CISM team to whether we partner with the fire department or some other jurisdictions. For me, when I pillow my head to make sure that we have offered, we have a department psychologist as well. There's some, because they were the first on the scene, some things that they did there that I want them to talk to a department psychologist, not because they did anything wrong, because I care about it. And we're having teams go to each precinct tomorrow, and a team go to our dispatch center, and a team talk to our forensic technicians that process the crime scene, the dispatchers who heard the information coming in and managed all those calls. Let me tell you, our 911 communication center dispatchers, I am so impressed. And I am so thankful for the work they did. They did an amazing job. James River High, yeah, I'm familiar. Going to class, answering questions. Yep, no doubt. Let's Keith, you're right on. Absolutely. 1 year, yep, absolutely. Jody, I work at Greenwood Elementary. Couldn't be more impressed with the way that things are handled, and you're honest, sincere, transparent. Communication with the community. We love our students that they're around and trust our judgment protocol. Ms. King, I'll tell you, I believe that the young people we have, that's our future, right? That is the best commodity this city has, investment in youth. And what's the right response, and I don't know that it's one. I think it's layered, and how we respond to make sure our kids are okay, and that our families are okay, and safety and precautions, and how do we decrease the probability of it ever happening again. And I wish I could snap my fingers and be at that scene right before it happened, or that I could turn back the clock, and I wish I could say that nothing like this will ever happen again. All I can say is that we can strive to do the best, all working together to decrease the probability of it happening, and I think that's very, very, very important. Let's go back up to the
Yeah.
middle. Stacy, my son's best friend was right there at Heritage yesterday, and it truly traumatized both of them. Thank you. Lost a little bit. I'm sorry. It's okay. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you very much. Please. I don't know the name of your son's best friend, but I'm proud of them. Proud of how they responded and the way they acted, exiting the building and getting out, helping other people. I was impressed to see that, and tell them I'm proud of it. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Ms. Lawrence. My second question will be a question for the school director. Why don't parents receive notification emails immediately upon emergency situations? Both parents need to be notified immediately. They're seeing it on social media, the TV hearing, and student text. That's a good question, Ms. Lawrence. I know they have a notification system. I'm not exactly sure. I don't want to comment because I don't want to mess it up and say it wrong. I know they have an alert system. It may be something where they want to make sure they have the right information. I know there was a lot of misinformation going on yesterday, which, agreeing with you, that I think created some of the panic. I'm not, and you're right, the language can be misleading, calling it altercation. I think some of it would be what they have and know at that time. That's a great question. And, the quicker we can get real information out, I completely agree. And that's a good point. I would hate to say, because I'm not exactly sure how those notifications are made and how they're processed, but you make very, very valid points. That's very good. Dawn, thank you so much for all you and your team did yesterday. I thought you all did an amazing job. It was a difficult situation. Prayers for all you do, as well as heritage students and the staff at high school. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Tony, doesn't matter the circumstances. Your team, wow. Some of your team are my friends. Wow. I appreciate that. Anything that happens like that, any critical situation, especially dealing with youth, that affects our whole community. The officers, first responders, the fire department, the paramedics, the sheriff's office, faculty members, other students, people who live in the community. Yeah, it affects all of us. And I think all of us have to be part moving forward of solutions and strategies and initiatives to reduce situations like this from happening again. I appreciate that. Courtney, Chief Drew, you and your department, I know a lot exhausted, but I couldn't think anyone better to have done the job this day. Well, Courtney, I don't know about that. I know I appreciate that. I could not be more impressed with the men and women in this organization. The city should be very proud. The way that they performed in the communication, and not just the police department, the sheriff's department, the federal agencies, the FBI, the ATF, state police. The calls that I got from around the jurisdiction, do you need Chief Talbot from Hampton? Do you need more resources? Picosin, reaching out, cities across the water if you needed things, detectives. It was just we all knew the situation that happened, and there's nothing more we care about than the youth of our community, and just the communication and the response. I wish we never had to respond to something like that, but when it happened, I could not be more impressed with the response. I know it was a little bit chaotic there, I get that, some misinformation, it's expected, but I thought the officers, the students, faculty, schools just did an amazing job. Stacy, thank you, I appreciate that. Megan, everyone contact your school board about communication. Okay, Sophia, thank you all. Sophia, thank you, appreciate that. And that, thank you for all you do for your officers for the city. We always depend on you to be open and honest. And that, thank you. I want to be transparent and as much as I can without compromising anything. And I know look, I make mistakes every day. We are not perfect. We do not always get it right. But our heart and striving to do the right thing and make the best decisions we can, I think that's important, and to try to be as open and transparent is really, really important. On to echoes. Encourage them to talk to the support team in schools. Well, that's good. I don't know if any of us will fully understand the trauma they experience in the moment, but we certainly need to be able to. Wow. Yeah, I think Ms. Eccles makes a great point. I think that we just have to. Well, it's probably not just one, but being able to listen, not hey, look, you're okay, go back to school. It's having conversations and listening, right? And listening. When I meet with the young adult police commissioners, it's a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior from our 6 high schools, so 24 students. When I meet with them, I try to listen and just hear what they're saying, regardless of the topic. If we're talking about what they expect from the police department, from their school system, from their community, from their elected officials. I just try to listen. How do they feel about gun violence? How do they feel about school, police officers in schools? How do they feel about opportunities and jobs and advancement? Just to hear and encourage those conversations. I think it's important. Not to let it get bottled up and suppressed and it comes out some other way. So that's really advice. Absolutely. Mandy, is that where we're left off?
Mm-hmm.
Teachers have to be told this isn't on you and just someone to throw out there. That being said, I had the pleasure of meeting you last year at Black Lives Matter event, and you generally care. I'm glad you're here, and I look forward to seeing how we move forward. Absolutely, I appreciate that. Those great comments. That means a lot, man. Thank you, Tony. If I may ask, what have you asked the school system on the recommendation moving forward in the meeting tonight? So we just had conversations. We talked a little bit about yesterday about what happened, things that worked well, things we want to work on. I think the meeting tonight at the school board will be parents. I'm sure the school board members will have a conversation themselves, but hearing from the community and parents. I have a couple of officers up there. When we finish here, I plan to head up there if the meeting's still going on. Just like to kind of hear some of the comments. But I think we will continue to have conversations as we move forward. It's just trying to understand, some questions about where did the gun come from, how did it get into school, those type things. What's working well, what do we need to work on? I'm really understanding the totality of the situation yesterday. So I think it's going to be a series of conversations. Peyton, you did a great job. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sophia, NPS should be sitting right next to you, so we can have a chance to voice our concerns, those questions I have with them. I understand, like I said, they have the school board meeting tonight. I'm sure there will be a lot of parents and conversation there. My point of these is to do these, it's awkward for me talking into a box, right? We've got a round thing like R2D2 I'm looking at, and it's hard. I'd rather have one-on-one conversation or talk as a group or a round table. So we do this once a month, 2 different times, once at 12 noon and once at 6 o'clock. But then life is busy and lifestyles and here and there, and you can watch it later. But I really like getting information back and forth. So it's something we've been doing for a while. I'm still trying to learn. I'm not very tech savvy, so I gotta have people around me that know how to manipulate things, the screen and the size and the font, not too much glare, but, no, I, for me, it's just a way to try to be open and have conversations with our community. 100% support police officers in schools in lieu of leaving the security burden on educators. It's a good point, Megan. I appreciate that. Thank you. AJ, thank you for the opportunity to return back to the force. I'm forever grateful to you, Chief. It's good to talk to you, my friend. Appreciate you. Dawn, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. A couple things. This is Suicide Awareness Month. I wanted to make sure that I touch base on that. Sometimes people suffering from depression or whatever the issue, may be hard for someone to come forward. I think it kind of plays a little bit into things that we're talking about. If we know people and if there's some type of mood change or something, they're outgoing and now they're reserved or they don't come around, whatever it might be, I encourage, ask about each other, check on each other. If you haven't heard from someone, check on that individual. But this is Suicide Awareness Month. People go through different struggles with loss, struggles with maybe finances, uncertainty, this pandemic that's hit our country, really around the world. Next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So you'll see several officers, including myself, wearing a different color badge. And it's also Domestic Violence Month. That's something very dear to me, domestic violence, and trying to address that. We have our own domestic violence team. Although we have not been able to decrease the number in the last 4 years, domestic violence cases continue to rise. I do believe that we are treating victims much, much better, and I have learned so much working with our domestic violence team on little things we can do to make a difference. So, like I said, this month is suicide awareness. Next month is breast cancer and domestic violence, and it is important for me. I think we have an event planned each week of domestic violence month. We're going to light up our building, and those individuals, again, that may find themselves in domestic violence situation, male or female, whatever it might be, child, elderly, whatever it might be, just check on people. If you see something or feel something, same thing in situation in schools and students and know each other. If you see something or feel something, you hear something, to let someone know. There are resources, there is help, and there are, I promise you, there are people who care. We're going to do it, Deborah. As a school system employee, I've always found comfort seeing SROs and or police officers in the halls. I think it helps faculty and students feel safe. Deborah, it's a great point. I appreciate that. I think there's a benefit too. And I will tell you, most students I talk to seem to really like having the SROs there. We've got some strong relationships. In faculty having that's a great point. I completely get it. Thank you. Deborah, we definitely need police officers in the school. Ms. Alexander, thank you. I appreciate that. And Chief, will the program be going on again this year? I'm collecting donations for domestic violence. Annie, absolutely. I'm committed for this department to have a strong impact, a strong focus on domestic violence, on awareness, how to treat our victims, addressing those that commit these acts, and absolutely. I think we have, tomorrow night we have some.
They're getting the boxes together, yes. And
so yes.
We'll be putting out information.
I will tell you, anytime you want to do some donations, if you let the department know, we'll have someone meet you here and collect them. It is very important. And I will tell you, it's I'll just mention it because you brought it up. I was unaware of some of the things that we need to collect from the members of individuals who find themselves victims of domestic violence. Some things that make sense, but some things I would have never even thought of, and I've learned that from working with our domestic violence team. September is Recovery Awareness Month as well. New outpatient treatment also located in Hampton. I'm not, Ms. Lawrence, I'm not as familiar with that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Quick plug. If we scroll down, did she say quick plug? That's good. No, that's great. That's okay. Information sharing, right? We're sharing information. That's great. Thank you. I saw the video you did with some youth on 911. That was an awesome thing to do, to sit down with those who might not have been alive and talk about. Yeah, Keith, I'll tell you, we had our 911 ceremony, of course, on 9/11, and we had it at the airport this year. And you know, a lot of the students that we work with weren't alive then, you know, they read about it or hear about it. But well, we showed some video footage of the actual event, and I really wanted to see their reaction. And again, I wanted to hear what they said. And I saw students who were not even alive, they got teared up. They kind of, wow, you know, and they talked about how they saw police and fire running through the buildings as that huge smoke cloud as the first tower fell. And it was just a moment for us to share and talk a little bit. You know, the point behind that was to make sure we never forget, right? That we never forget, that we decrease the probability of something like that ever happening again, and making sure we stay away. But I really enjoyed that conversation. Annie, thank you. Appreciate that. We love to share the good work. I'm going to tell you bad news and said that. Thank you, Meg. I appreciate that. Tell me, it's important for all of us to realize that as much as we hope it will never reach our home until it does, have a great relationship, but as a parent, never stress. We actually include. Tony, I completely agree. I think it is important. I would just about say any adult will tell you that someone helped them as they were growing up. For me, it was youth pastors, my dad, my mom, baseball coaches that I had. And look, when I grew up, parents in the neighborhood made sure I was doing the right thing. They told on me if I wasn't. But people helped me along the way, and I think that we ought to give that back. You know, I encourage. I just tell you one of the things. You know, I asked the new recruits when they graduate the academy. I asked for one favor. It's my hope that they do 25 years in this organization, but I ask them for one favor. Every day you come to work for the next 25 years, spend some part of that day, I don't care if it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, some part of that day interacting with the youth. Positive, encouraging, listening, whatever it might be. Every single day they come to work for the next 25 years, a few minutes, half hour, to impact the youth in a positive way. You know, for me, just to showing support. And, every Friday you'll see me at a football game, or Saturday afternoon. I got to see Minstrel play Hampton, and I saw Ward play the other night. Had a great conversation with the Ward principal there, and yeah, I just think giving back and investing in our youth is critical now more than ever. And they need to know that they matter, and that we care about them. And that's not just words that we can say. I think we have to show it, right? I think it has to be in action. You can't just say it in an office, on a Facebook stream, or in an email. It has to be in action. So that's why I go to the football games. That's why I like to walk in the neighborhoods. That's why I like the basketball that we play with the kids at the Boys and Girls Club, and the partnerships we have. I just think that's important. And I appreciate, you know, I should stop, and I appreciate some of the smaller organizations that don't have the big buildings, right, and big titles, that do hard work, that invest and interact. You know, I see officers mentor a lot of young people. And one that comes to mind is Sergeant Webster. I see his investment in a young man who now goes to Woodside, and they're like inseparable. And it's just his eyes have opened. I think it impacts both of them. And I'm so impressed when I see him. I tease them both. I give them both a hard time, but I believe that young high school student who goes to Woodside High School is down at a vigil right now, Lieutenant Morgan at Heritage High School. And that is impressive to me. That is impressive to me. So just as we wrap up here, I'm going to be here about 5 or 6 more minutes. I think I've hit most of the questions that come in. I apologize if I missed any. I just want to thank everyone that responded. I want to thank the students for how well they worked together, looking out for each other, working with officers as we directed them out of the building, how well they worked together and collaborated on the outside. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for the help they did, and all our federal partners, state troopers that were there, just did an amazing job. Faculty and staff, just amazing job. Tracy, why were the students evacuated before the location of the shooter was known? My son was there yesterday. My concern is that the shooter had his main goal been to take out as many classmates as possible, could have evacuated with other students and then opened fire on them, gathered together in one place. Tracy, so I will tell you that the shooting took place during the lunch, I may have this wrong, lunchtime crossover, or lunch was getting out, another group was going. There were a lot of kids in the hallway already. And when kids start running, we were able to get some pretty good information. And what we will do is, once we have an area secure, that we feel like we can move, and what I had plenty of officers on each side to protect that, kind of a funnel. We weren't having kids run out of 5 or 6 different locations. We were able to get kids out in primary 2 locations, and they were protected on each side. And we didn't open up the other side until we had that. So we didn't wait till we had the whole school cleared. We waited till we had sections. We were able to remove this and then clear another section and move that. So that was a call that was made, is we're there. We have, we can tell some people, stay in the classroom. Some people are moving around. I believe that the evacuation went well. There were already a large group in the foyer of the school. There were already not in classrooms, right, coming out of that lunch, and groups going in, from what I understand. And so, like I said, it was right around 11:30ish. So I believe that the school was evacuated and cleared. And information we had, we were looking at video surveillance camera, we were clearing sections of the school. I think we went very systematically. So yeah, at least that's the reason. Like I said, I was not outside. I was inside the school with the other officers and Chief Quinstead. I saw how the evacuation process. I was there, and I thought the officers did a very good job. I thought faculty and staff working together. We had parents that originally tried to come into the school to find their kids, and so you got to make some assessments. You have to make some assessments there and do the best thing. And once we explained to parents we were moving students out, de-escalated some things, we were able to get them to a certain location. So that's a good question, but that's what led forward. And I could not be more impressed with some of the leadership that was there before I got there, with Captain Hires, Lieutenant Collins, Sergeant Carter, Sergeant Bartley organizing movement. They did just an amazing job. We cleared things, and moved, and then cleared again, and then moved, and then we cleared the whole building again, and one more time. Schools were great with giving us accessibility. Each group teams of 2 that went through with the keys, master keys, and checking those things. So I just thought it went, with what we were faced with. I thought it went very, very well. Maybe do a student assembly at the school so the kids can talk and ask questions, give the opportunity to reassure them. Yeah, Keith, I think that's an option. I'm probably a bigger fan of smaller groups and conversations, so kids will open up more. But I think any opportunity to have kids talk and share, and for us to listen, I would agree. I think however that is, I think that would be great. Tony, I'm a school employee. I love my community and police force. You made me a believer in you. Wow. I'm sorry you dealt with the most 2 lows in the department has dealt with since your wait. You may be a believer in you. I'm sorry you dealt with the most 2 lows that your department has dealt with since your tenure. Well, Tony, I appreciate that. There are some things I wish we never had to deal with or address. I second guess myself a lot. I make mistakes every day. We do not always get it right. But I will tell you, I'm a man of faith. I ask for guidance and wisdom. I think we have a lot of talent in this department, a lot of talent in our community, a lot of talent in our youth. I think we have to be able to listen to each other. And look, we don't always have to agree, and probably good when we don't, right? Probably the best answer is somewhere in the middle. But I'm willing to sit down and have conversations. I'm willing to listen and look to different opinions. At the end of the day, we make some, and I hope that we get more right than wrong. But all people have value, and yesterday was a bad day. But I saw a lot of good. I appreciate that, Tony. That means a lot. Thank you. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. I know that there's a lot of things going on, and my prayers go out to every individual who attends Heritage High School, every faculty member that works there, the school board, parents that have students there, family there, alumni, right? Faculty and staff. I want to thank everyone that responded yesterday, and I feel a lot about the police side, law enforcement. I want to thank the doctors and the surgeons and the nursing staff at the hospitals, the paramedics that transported You know, also, one thing the school bus drivers, that kids get on the bus and you start to take them home and they're dealing with questions and uncertainty. I appreciate it. And it was a hard day for a lot of people. To the parents and the kids in the school, I want to apologize if this incident happened. It's my commitment to continue to move forward in new ways and reinforce what works and think outside the box. I would stress that I think it's very, very important if young people in this social media world, if you see something or if you hear something, you just feel that there's tension somewhere, something might kick off, something might happen, whether it's a school, a community, a mall, wherever, that you let us know. I'm not asking you to step out and say, hey, I'm calling the police. I'm asking you to either text us or call us. I'd rather respond and it be nothing at all. I'd rather respond and maybe two individuals walk the opposite direction than not to respond when something happens. Anytime something happens like that at a school, it's already bad. Our next goal is to save life and to decrease the possibility of more being injured. I could not be happier with the response and the way that the students acted yesterday. And I appreciate you working with us. Scroll up again, there's a thank you. I want to mention her, so I didn't get to see. Ms. Weaver, that means a lot. Thank you. Anna, you too, have a good night. Yeah, we're going to be up at Calvary Chapel. I'll tell you, Pastor Tony reached out to me. I had some very encouraging words, and I needed it. And I just got home, and I returned his phone call, text message, and things he said to me, I needed it. I appreciate that, Pastor. I know a lot. Thank you, Chief NPD, for all that you do. Be safe. Thank you. Thank you, Annie. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here tonight. Keith, started off a bad day, but you in the middle of it. Wow, minimize it. That's a good word. I minimize it. That's good. Keith, I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here tonight and chiming in and checking on me. I appreciate that, my friend. Judy, I'm keeping you all in my prayer. From North Carolina, I have grandchildren in Newport News Schools, and I thank you for taking care of them. Judy, I will take every prayer you offer up. It matters, and I fully believe it makes a difference. Thank you all for spending some time with me tonight. I was here, I was on time, and I don't think we had as many glitches today, so thank you. I appreciate you, and I just ask God's hands on all of us as we move forward. And prayers for those that were injured yesterday and the students as we move forward. God bless.